Alright, this is the second part of converting from standard form to center radius form, but the only difference today is now we're going to have odd coefficients of either x or y. So here's the equation in standard form. It's in standard form because the direction is x squared, x, y number. Now one of these values could be missing of x or y, and in that case the center of that coordinate would be 0. But if you notice, the coefficient of x here is 3, and the coefficient of y is -4. Now, you may be saying to yourself, what's the difference if it's odd or even? Well, if you recall the procedure, in order to convert to center radius form, after we convert to center radius form, we'll find the coordinates of the center and the measure of the radius. But first, let's convert to center radius form, and if you recall the procedure, step 1 was -2a equals and -2b equals. Well, -2a equals the number in front of x, which is 3, and -2b equals the number in front of y, which is -4. So now you may see, this is why it matters, because we're dividing by -2, which means it's not divisible by 2. But that doesn't mean we can't express it as a fraction and just leave a as -3/2. And b is +2. So we could jump ahead and answer the second part of this question. Now we know the coordinates of the center. It's -3/2 is the x coordinate, and 2 is the y coordinate. So let's square a and b. A squared is, well, 3 squared is 9, and 2 squared is 4, and b squared is 4. So if you remember the procedure, a squared plus b squared minus c squared equals number, where a squared in this case is 9/4, b squared is 4, minus c squared equals number, which the number in this case is -6. So now the issue here is we have some fractions here, so we'll have to manipulate both of these numbers and express them both with a denominator of 4. So let's say 9/4 plus 16/4 minus equals -24/4. And the only reason I did that is to help me combine like terms. I'm going to have to flip to the other side here. Let's combine like terms. 16 plus 9 is 25/4 minus c squared equals -24/4. And now we'll subtract 25/4 from both sides. So -c squared equals -24/4 minus 25/4. But we have a common denominator, so let's just write it once. And -24 minus 25 is -49. Let's divide both sides by -1. So c squared equals +49/4. Let's take the square root of both sides to get our radius. C is, radical 49 is 7, and radical 4 is 2. So the center radius form of this circle is, I'll grab another piece of paper so I don't have to flip. So the center radius form is x minus a, minus is positive, so plus 3/2 squared, or take a look at the coordinates of the center and make them the opposite side in the equation. Well, it's a +2 in the center, so it's a -2 in the equation, equals c squared, 49/4. We have the center of -3/2, +2, and we have a radius of the square root of 49/4, which is 7/2. So the only difference here is that we have a fraction to work with. Let's do one more example. Let's say we have x plus 5 squared minus, oh, that's center radius form. Let's say we have x squared plus y squared minus 5x minus 7 equals 0. You may be saying to yourself, oh, you messed up again. You don't have a y term. Well, that's okay. That just means the coefficient of y is 0. So we're still going to start with negative 2a equals and negative 2b equals. Negative 2a in this case equals negative 5. That's the number in front of x. Negative 2b equals the number in front of y, 0. So divide by negative 2, a equals 5 over 2. Divide by negative 2, b equals 0. So we can think ahead now. We have 2/3 of the equation in center radius form. A is 5 over 2 minus 5 over 2 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals, and the last thing we need for the equation is c squared. Square A and square B. A squared is 25 over 4 and b squared is still 0. And now we can plug that into a squared plus b squared minus c squared equals the number. The number in the equation in this case is negative 7. A squared, 25 over 4, b squared is 0, minus c squared equals negative 7. Well, we need 7 to have a denominator of 4, so we'll say 25 over 4 minus c squared equals, multiplied by 4 over 4, negative 28 over 4. And now we can subtract 25 over 4 from both sides, giving us negative c squared equals negative 28 over 4 minus 25 over 4. Negative c squared equals, let's see, 53, negative 53 over 4, and let's just make them positive by multiplying by negative 1. So that's c squared, that's what's in the equation. However, the center is 5 over 2, make it the opposite sign, 0, and the radius is the square root of that number. So radical 53 over 2. And if this radical can be broken down, make sure you do so.